The alarm bells screamed through Meridian Station like wounded animals. Red lights flashed in every corridor, casting bloody shadows on the metal walls. Dr. Hana Kim pressed her face against the cold glass of the observation window and watched. The stars dance in ways that should not be possible. "They're coming," whispered Dr. Tae-wan from behind her. His voice shook like dry leaves in winter wind. "The Void Hunters are really coming." Hana did not move from the window. She had been studying the intercepted signals for 3 days now. The data stream showed patterns that made her heart race with excitement rather than fear. While everyone else saw only death approaching, she saw something else entirely. "Look at these energy readings," she said, pointing to her tablet screen. "The way they bend space around their ships. It's not random destruction, Tae. There's a pattern here." Tae grabbed her arm and tried to pull her away from the window. "Pattern or no pattern, they've destroyed 17 star systems in the past year. Billions of people are dead, Hannah. We need to evacuate now." The station shuddered as another wave of impossible energy washed over them. Through the thick glass, Hannah could see space itself rippling like water. The sight should have terrified her, but instead it filled her with wonder. How could any living creature manipulate reality on such a scale? Captain June Park's voice echoed through the station's communication system. "All personnel report to evacuation pods immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, all personnel to evacuation pods. We have less than 6 hours before they reach our position." Hana turned back to her research station and began downloading files onto portable drives. Her hands moved quickly across the keyboard as she saved years of xenobiology research. If she was going to make first contact with the most feared species in the galaxy, she would need every piece of data she could gather. "What are you doing?" Tae demanded. "We have to go now." "I'm not leaving," Hana said without looking up from her work. "This is the chance of a lifetime, Tae. When will we ever get another opportunity to study them up close?" Dr. Minho Choi burst into the laboratory, his face pale with panic. "The last transport leaves in 20 minutes. If you're not on it, you'll die here." Hannah finally turned around to face her colleagues. Both men stared at her as if she had lost her mind. Perhaps she had, but she felt more clear-headed than ever before. "Every species in this galaxy runs from the Void Hunters," she said calmly. "Everyone fears them. But fear blinds us to understanding. What if they're not the monsters we think they are?" "Not monsters," Minho's voice cracked. "They consume entire worlds, Hana. They leave nothing behind but empty space and dead stars." "But why?" Hana asked. "What drives them to do this? Are they evil creatures who enjoy destruction, or is there another reason? We'll never know if we keep running every time they appear." The station shook again, more violently this time. Through the walls, they could hear other researchers and technicians running through the corridors, carrying their most important belongings toward the escape pods. Tae grabbed both of Hana's hands in his. "Please come with us. You're the best xenobiologist in human space. If you die here, who will continue your work?" Hana squeezed his hands gently, then pulled away. "My work is here now, with them." "You can't communicate with them," Minho said desperately. "They don't respond to any signals we've tried. They just arrive, consume, and leave." "That's because we've only tried to threaten them or run from them," Hana replied. She walked to her computer and began typing rapidly. "But what if we approach them differently? What if we try to understand them instead of fighting them?" The lights flickered as another energy wave passed through the station. This one was stronger than the others. Through the observation window, they could see the stars bending into impossible shapes. Reality itself seemed to be breaking apart. "They're getting closer," Tae whispered. Captain Park's voice came through the speakers again, more urgent now. "Final boarding call for all evacuation transports. Departure in 10 minutes. Anyone remaining on station after that time will be considered lost. Hana pulled up the long-range communication array on her computer. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she programmed a complex mathematical sequence. She had spent the last 3 years studying patterns in alien communication, and she had theories about universal constants that might bridge the gap between species. "What are you doing?" Minho asked. "I'm going to talk to them," Hana said. "Mathematics is universal. If they're intelligent enough to bend space and consume stars, they'll understand basic mathematical relationships." She entered a series of prime numbers, followed by the golden ratio, then the speed of light expressed in mathematical terms. The message went out into space, broadcast on all frequencies at maximum power. The station fell silent except for the hum of machinery and the distant sound of the last evacuation ships launching. Through the observation window, the strange energy pattern seemed to pause for a moment, as if something had noticed their signal. "Did you see that?" Hana breathed. "The energy fluctuations changed when I sent the message." Tay and Minho looked at each other with expressions of pure terror. They both knew that Hana would not change her mind. She had made her choice. "We can't leave you here alone," Tay said finally. "Yes, you can," Hana replied firmly. "This is my decision. Take the research data I gave you. If something happens to me, make sure it reaches the Xenobiology Institute on Earth." Minho handed her emergency beacon. "If you change your mind, activate this. We'll try to come back for you." The two men embraced her quickly, then ran from the laboratory toward the evacuation pods. Hana heard their footsteps echoing through the empty corridors, growing fainter until they disappeared entirely. Now, she was alone on Meridian Station, floating in space with only the station's basic life support systems to keep her alive. Through the observation window, she watched the last transport ships disappear into the darkness between stars. The energy readings on her instruments spiked suddenly. Something massive was approaching through the twisted space around the station. Hana's heart pounded with excitement and terror as she realized that her moment of truth was finally arriving. She sent another mathematical message into the void, this time adding simple diagrams of atomic structures and basic physics principles. The response came immediately. The space around the station began to glow with an eerie blue light. "Hello," Hana whispered to the approaching presence. "I'm here to learn about you." The stars twisted one final time, and something impossible began to take shape in the darkness outside her window. The air in Meridian Station grew thick and electric as reality twisted around the approaching presence. Hana felt the hair on her arms stand up as waves of energy passed through the metal walls like they were made of paper. Her instruments went wild, showing readings that should have been impossible. Then he appeared. Kale Vorthek materialized in the center of the observation deck like a nightmare-given form. He stood 12 feet tall, his body a terrifying fusion of living flesh and crystalline technology that pulsed with inner light. Multiple appendages shifted between solid matter and pure energy, reaching out to touch and examine everything around him. Hana's first instinct was to run, but she fought against it. She had come too far to give in to fear now. Instead, she stepped closer, pulling out her handheld scanner and pointing it at the massive being. "Fascinating," she whispered, reading the energy patterns on her device. "You're not entirely organic, are you? Part of you exists in a different dimensional space." Kale turned toward her, and she found herself looking into eyes that held the light of dying stars. He had expected to find terror, screaming, the desperate attempts to flee that he'd encountered on every world he visited. Instead, the small human creature was studying him with scientific instruments. He paused, confused. In thousands of years of existence, no sentient being had ever approached him without fear. The emotion was so alien to his experience that he did not know how to respond. Hana circled around him slowly, taking readings from different angles. "Your body temperature is fluctuating rapidly. Are you having some kind of metabolic response to being in our dimension? And these energy patterns, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. She reached into her equipment bag and pulled out a small device that projected holographic displays. Can you understand this? She asked, showing him a simple diagram of atomic structure. Kale studied the projection with interest. His form shifted slightly, and one of his appendages extended toward the hologram. When he touched it, the display changed, showing atomic structures far more complex than anything human science had discovered. You do understand, Hana said with excitement. You're showing me elements that don't exist in our periodic table. Are these from your home dimension? For the first time in millennia, Kale found himself wanting to communicate rather than simply consume. He altered the holographic display again, showing her images of a dying universe where matter itself was breaking down into pure energy. Hana watched the display with growing understanding. Your dimension is collapsing. You're not destroyers, you're refugees. The word hit Kale like a physical blow. Refugee. He had not thought of himself or his people in those terms for so long that he had almost forgotten what they had once been. Before the hunger. Before the endless need to consume energy from living worlds, just to survive another day, he changed the display once more, showing her images of his people as they had been before their home dimension began to die. Beautiful beings of light and crystal, creators of wondrous technologies, builders of cities that floated between stars. They had been capable of great love, great art, great compassion. What happened to them? Hana asked softly. What changed? You into what you are now? Kale showed her the progression. The slow death of their universe. The desperate search for ways to survive. The discovery that they could absorb energy from living beings in other dimensions. The gradual transformation. From beings of light into creatures of hunger. The hunger changed you, Hana realized. It suppressed everything else you were. But you're still in there, aren't you? The being you used to be is still inside. Kale's form rippled with something that might have been pain. He had not allowed himself to remember what he had lost. The constant need to feed, to consume, to take energy from other worlds had consumed his soul as well as his body. Hana set down her scanner and did something that no being had done in thousands of years. She reached out and gently touched one of his crystalline surfaces. The contact sent shockwaves through Kale's entire being. He felt something he had not experienced since before the hunger began. Warmth, not the heat of consumed energy, but the gentle warmth of connection with another living being. You're not a monster, Hana said quietly. You're a person who has been forced to do terrible things to survive. But that doesn't mean you have to keep being what the hunger made you. Kale pulled back from her touch, overwhelmed by sensations he had thought were dead forever. Through the station's communication systems, he could hear signals from his fleet, demanding to know why he had not yet begun consuming this outpost. He tried to send back the usual response, but found himself hesitating. For the first time in centuries, he questioned whether consuming this place was necessary. The human female had shown him something different, a possibility he had not considered. Your people are hungry, Hana said, understanding his conflict. But there might be other ways to get the energy you need. Ways that don't require destroying inhabited worlds. She brought up data on her computer, showing energy readings from nearby uninhabited stars and gas giants. What if we could find alternative sources? What if your people didn't have to be refugees anymore? Kale studied the data she showed him. With his advanced understanding of energy manipulation, he could see possibilities she had not even considered. Ways to harvest energy from stellar phenomena without destroying living worlds. Methods to tap into the quantum foam of space itself. But even as hope began to grow in his ancient heart, he knew the challenges they would face. His people had been creatures of hunger for so long that many had forgotten what they used to be. and the species they had terrorized would not easily accept that change was possible. It would take time. He managed to communicate through the holographic display, showing her images of his fleet and the desperate hunger that drove them. "All good things take time," Hana replied, "but we have to start somewhere." As they worked together through the night, sharing knowledge and exploring possibilities, something remarkable began to happen. Kale felt the constant gnawing hunger that had driven him for millennia begin to quiet. In its place, something warm and unfamiliar began to grow. He was beginning to remember what it felt like to hope. Outside the station, his fleet waited for orders that would not come. For the first time in thousands of years, Kale Vorthik was learning that there might be something more important than survival. He was learning what it meant to feel again. The galaxy's most feared destroyer was discovering that the greatest power in the universe was not the ability to consume, but the courage to connect with another being across the vast darkness of space. And it all began with one human who refused to be afraid. 3 days passed on Meridian Station, and they were the most extraordinary days in the history of both species. Hana and Kale worked together, sharing knowledge that bridged the gap between human science and void hunter technology. The station's empty corridors echoed with the sound of discovery. Kale learned about human emotions through Hana's patient explanations. She showed him recordings of music, art, and literature. She told him stories of love and loss, of hope and dreams. Each new concept was like light entering a room that had been dark for thousands of years. In return, Kale shared the vast knowledge of his people. He showed Hana technologies that could reshape matter at the quantum level. He taught her about dimensions beyond human understanding. Together, they began to develop theories about alternative energy sources that could save his starving people. "You're different now," Hana observed on the third morning as they worked side by side in the laboratory. "Your energy patterns have changed. You're not the same being who arrived here." Kale paused in his work, studying his own reflection in the station's metal surfaces. She was right. The harsh angles of his crystalline form had softened. The angry red glow that had surrounded him had shifted to warmer colors. Even his multiple appendages moved with less aggression and more grace. "You have changed me," he admitted through their now sophisticated communication system. "I feel things I had forgotten existed. When you laugh, it creates harmonics in my internal structures. When you touch my surface, energy flows through me in patterns I do not understand." Hana smiled and placed her hand on one of his crystalline surfaces. The touch sent ripples of blue light through his entire form. "That's called affection, Kale. It's what happens when two beings care about each other." The concept of caring was still foreign to him, but he was beginning to understand. When Hana had cut her hand on a piece of broken equipment the day before, he had felt pain that had nothing to do with his own body. When she had fallen asleep at her workstation, he had dimmed his internal lights so as not to disturb her rest. Their peaceful work was interrupted by the sudden appearance of warning lights throughout the station. The long-range sensors had detected approaching ships. "It's a rescue fleet," Hana said, reading the incoming signals. "Human military vessels. They're coming to investigate what happened to the station." Kale's form shifted with anxiety. "Your people will not understand what they find here. They will see only the monster they fear. Then we'll have to help them see what I see," Hana replied with determination. The rescue fleet was led by Dr. Minho Choi, who had convinced the military commanders to let him return for his colleague. He expected to find only destruction and death. Instead, his sensors showed that the station was intact and that Hana's life signs were strong. When the rescue team docked with Meridian Station, they came prepared for battle. Armed soldiers in powered armor moved through the corridors, weapons ready, expecting to encounter the galaxy's most dangerous predator. They found Hana in the main laboratory, calmly working alongside the very creature they had come to destroy. The soldiers froze in terror when they saw Kale, Their training had not prepared them for this situation. Every instinct screamed at them to fire their weapons, but Hana quickly moved between them and Kale. "Don't shoot," she said firmly. "He's not what you think he is." "Hana, get away from that thing," Dr. Menho pleaded, his voice shaking with fear. "We've come to rescue you." "I don't need rescuing," Hana replied. "I need you to listen to me. Everything we thought we knew about the Void Hunters is wrong." The soldiers' weapons remained trained on Kale, who had frozen in place, trying not to appear threatening. The fear radiating from the humans was almost overwhelming to his newly sensitive emotional awareness. "They're refugees, Minho," Hana continued. "Their home dimension is dying. They consume energy because they have to, not because they want to. And with the right technology, we can help them find other sources." "It's killed billions of people," one of the soldiers said through gritted teeth. Kale's form shifted with what Hana now recognized as shame. Through their communication system, he projected images showing the worlds he had consumed, the civilizations that had died to feed his people's hunger. "I know what I have done," his translated voice said softly. "I carry the weight of every life I have taken. But I did not know there was another way." "There is another way now," Hana said. "We've been working on it for 3 days." "Show them." Kale hesitantly activated the holographic displays they had been working on. The projections showed detailed plans for energy collection systems that could harvest power from stellar phenomena without harming living worlds. Dr. Minho studied the displays with growing amazement. "These energy outputs are incredible. If this technology works, it could revolutionize how we power our own civilizations." "It will work," Hana said confidently. "But only if we can convince both species to try." The standoff continued for hours as more human ships arrived. Word of the situation spread quickly through the fleet. Some officers wanted to attack immediately, while others were intrigued by the possibility of peaceful contact. Meanwhile, Kale's own people were growing impatient. His lieutenant, Vex Morvain, had been questioning his absence from their ongoing consumption operations. The Void Hunter fleet was hungry, and they did not understand why their leader was delaying their feeding. "My people are suffering," Kale told Hana privately. "They need energy soon, or they will begin to die. If I cannot convince them to try your alternative methods, they will resume consuming inhabited worlds." "Then we need to work faster," Hana replied. "And we need to prove to both sides that cooperation is possible." Late that night, as the human fleet maintained its uneasy watch around the station, Hana made a discovery that changed everything. In studying Kale's biology, she found evidence that his people's emotional suppression was not permanent. The capacity for love, compassion, and empathy was still there, buried beneath layers of survival instinct. "It's like a muscle that hasn't been used," she explained to him. "The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. You're proof that your people can change." But even as hope grew between them, they both knew that the greatest challenges lay ahead. The galaxy would not easily accept that its greatest fear could become its greatest ally. And Kale's own people might reject the changes he was experiencing. As Hana fell asleep that night, exhausted from their work, Kale stood watch over her. The protective instinct he felt was unlike anything he had experienced in his long existence. For the first time since his dimension began dying, he wanted something more than mere survival. He wanted a future where beings like Hana could exist safely in a universe where his people were helpers rather than destroyers. But he also knew that love, once awakened, demanded terrible choices. Soon he would have to choose between the people who had shaped him and the human who had saved his soul. The decision would determine the fate of countless worlds. The crisis began when Kale refused to join his fleet's next feeding operation. For the first time in thousands of years, he told his people to wait while he explored what he called new possibilities for survival. Vex Morvain, his most trusted lieutenant, appeared on Meridian Station in a rage of swirling dark energy. Where Kale had begun to soften and warm, Vex remained the pure embodiment of the Void Hunter's original hunger. His form writhed with aggressive spikes and his eyes burned with the cold fire of dying stars. "You have been corrupted," Vex declared, his voice like grinding metal. "This human female has poisoned your mind with weakness. Our people starve while you play with emotions that should have died long ago." Kale stood protectively in front of Hana, his own form shifting to match Vex's aggressive posture. "I have not been corrupted. I have been awakened. There are other ways to survive, Vex. Ways that do not require us to remain monsters." "We are not monsters," Vex snarled. "We are survivors. We do what we must to preserve our species. These emotions, you claim to feel are luxuries we cannot afford." The confrontation between the two ancient beings filled the station with dangerous energy. Human soldiers scrambled to maintain their positions as reality warped around the arguing. Void Hunters, Dr. Minho and his team watched in terror as the two most powerful beings they had ever encountered prepared for battle. Hannah stepped between them, her small human form dwarfed by their massive presence. "Stop this. Fighting each other won't solve anything." "Stand aside, human," Vex commanded. "This is a matter for our kind to resolve." "No," Hana said firmly. "Kale and I have been working on solutions to help your people. If you destroy each other, those solutions die with you." She activated the holographic displays showing their research. "Look at this data, Vex. We found energy sources that could feed your entire fleet without consuming a single inhabited world. Stars that are already dying naturally. Gas giants with no life to harm. Quantum energy taps that could provide unlimited power." Vex studied the displays with grudging interest. His analytical mind could see the potential in their designs. But his response was immediate and harsh. "Even if these methods work, they would take time to implement. Our people are hungry now. They need energy today, not in some distant future when your experiments might succeed." "Then let us prove it works," Kale said. "Give me one ship, one crew. Let us demonstrate that these methods can provide the energy we need." Before Vex could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet approaching from the core worlds. Admiral Yeon Su was leading the largest military force ever assembled, with orders to destroy the Void Hunter fleet once and for all. "They're coming to destroy us all," Dr. Minho reported, his face pale as he read the incoming signals. 500 warships carrying the most powerful weapons humanity has ever built. Captain June Park's voice came through the communication. Channels broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Captain Park of the Human Defense Fleet. We have authorization to use any means necessary to eliminate the Void Hunter threat. You have 1 hour to surrender or face total annihilation." The situation spiraled beyond anyone's control. Vex saw the approaching fleet as proof that cooperation with humans was impossible. "They come to destroy us even as we consider peace. This is why emotions are weakness, Kale. This is why we cannot trust other species." But Kale saw something different in the human response. They are afraid, just as we have been afraid. Fear makes beings do terrible things, but it does not have to control them forever. Hana worked frantically at her communication console, trying to establish contact with Admiral Yeon's fleet. "We can stop this," she said. "If I can just explain what we've discovered. If I can show them the proof that change is possible." The hour passed quickly. Admiral Yeon's fleet arrived in perfect battle formation, their weapons powered and ready. But instead of opening fire immediately, they held their positions, waiting for a sign of hostile intent from the Void Hunters. That sign came when Vex, convinced that the humans would never accept peace, began powering his ship's consumption systems. The energy buildup was unmistakable to every sensor in the system. "Hostile energy buildup detected," Admiral Yian announced. "All ships, prepare to fire." "No, wait," Hana broadcast on all frequencies. "There's another way. We can prove that peace is possible." But her words were lost in the chaos as weapons from both fleets began to charge. The space around Meridian Station filled with the deadly glow of preparatory fire from hundreds of ships. Kale made his choice in that moment. He could not allow the violence to continue. Using his power over space and energy, he created a barrier between the two fleets, preventing either side from firing. "I will not allow this slaughter," he declared, his voice carrying across all communication channels. "My people are refugees, not conquerors. The human Hana has shown me that there are alternatives to endless war." His intervention created a moment of stunned silence. On both sides, weapons remained trained on targets, but no one fired. The galaxy's most feared destroyer was protecting both fleets from each other. "This is impossible," Admiral Yian said, her voice filled with disbelief. "Void hunters don't protect other species, they consume them. This one has been changed by human influence." Vex snarled over the communication channels. "He has become weak, corrupted by emotions that have no place in our survival." The standoff continued for hours, with Kale maintaining his energy barrier while Hana desperately tried to convince both sides to consider alternatives to violence. Some members of both fleets began to listen, intrigued by the possibility that their greatest enemy might become an ally, but hardliners on both sides rejected any compromise. Admiral Yian had lost her homeworld to a Void Hunter attack years before. Several of Kale's subordinates believed that showing mercy to any species was a betrayal of their starving people. The fragile peace shattered when a junior officer on one of the human ships, overwhelmed by fear and hatred, fired a single shot. At Kale's position, the energy beam struck Meridian Station's hull, causing a massive explosion. In the chaos that followed, a piece of debris struck Hana, sending her crashing to the floor with blood pooling beneath her still form. Kale's anguished cry echoed across the battle zone as he saw the human who had taught him to love lying motionless in her own blood. The pain he felt was beyond anything he had experienced in his long existence. For a moment, the ancient hunger rose within him, demanding vengeance for this injury to the one being who had shown him compassion. The power to destroy both fleets pulsed through his form, ready to be unleashed. But as he knelt beside Hana's broken body, her eyes opened and she whispered words that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. "Don't become the monster again, Kale. Show them what love can do." Her words reached something deeper than the hunger, deeper than the rage. They reached the being he had chosen to become rather than the creature he had always been. The choice he made next would determine whether love or fear would shape the future of both species. Kale held Hana's broken body in his crystalline arms, feeling her life force fading with each shallow breath. The ancient power within him screamed for revenge, demanding that he destroy every human ship in the system. But her words echoed in his mind, stronger than the hunger that had driven him for millennia. Don't become the monster again. Around them, both fleets watched in stunned silence as the galaxy's most feared destroyer cradled a dying human with infinite gentleness. "Admiral." Yian lowered her weapons, struck by the impossible sight of a Void Hunter showing such tender care for another being. "I will not let you die," Kale whispered to Hana, his voice carrying across all communication channels. "You taught me what it means to feel. Now let me show you what love can do." Using technology that bridged the gap between their species, Kale began to share his own life energy with Hana. The process was dangerous and unprecedented. No Void Hunter had ever attempted to merge their essence with another species. The energy patterns could kill them both, but love had taught him that some risks were worth taking. Hana's body began to glow with the same blue light that pulsed through Kale's crystalline form. Her wounds started to heal as alien energy flowed. through her human cells. But the transformation was changing her in ways that neither of them had expected. "What is happening to me?" she gasped as her consciousness expanded beyond human limits. "We are becoming something new," Kale replied, his own form shifting as her human compassion flowed into his ancient being. Neither fully human nor void hunter, but something that combines the best of both species. Dr. Minho watched in amazement as his colleague's biology changed before his eyes. Her human DNA was integrating with Kale's quantum-based life force, creating a hybrid being that existed partially in both dimensions. The readings on his instruments showed energy patterns that defied every law of physics he knew. "This is impossible," he breathed. "She's becoming something beyond human classification." The transformation affected Kale as well. His harsh, angular form began to soften and reshape itself. The aggressive spikes that had marked him as a predator disappeared, replaced by flowing curves that seemed to dance with inner light. His multiple appendages became more graceful, moving with the fluid beauty of a creature designed for creation rather than consumption. But the changes were more than physical. As Hannah's memories flowed into his consciousness, Kale experienced human emotions with an intensity that staggered him. He felt her childhood wonder at the stars, her excitement at discovering new forms of life, her deep compassion for all living beings. The emotions reshaped his very essence, burning away the last remnants of the cold hunger that had driven him for so long. In return, Hannah gained access to Kale's vast knowledge and dimensional awareness. She could see energy patterns that existed beyond normal space-time. She understood technologies that no human had ever imagined. Most importantly, she felt the profound loneliness that had driven his species to become destroyers, and the desperate hope that love had awakened in him. "I can feel your people's pain," she said as the transformation completed. "They're not monsters, Kale. They're children who lost their way in the darkness and forgot how to find the light." Their merger had created something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. Where Hannah had been purely human and Kale had been purely void hunter, they now existed as a bridge between the two species. Their combined consciousness could think in ways that neither species could achieve alone. "The energy source problem," Hannah realized suddenly. "I can see the solution now. It's not about finding new places to harvest energy. It's about changing how your people process and store it." Using their combined knowledge, they quickly developed a new type of energy conversion system. Instead of consuming the life force of entire worlds, void hunters could learn to survive on much smaller amounts of energy by processing it more efficiently. The technology could be implemented quickly and would allow Kale's people to survive without destroying inhabited worlds. "Will it work?" Admiral Yeon asked, her voice filled with cautious hope. "It will work," Kale confirmed. "But my people will need time to adapt. And your species will need to overcome their fear of us." Vex, who had watched the entire transformation with growing amazement, finally spoke. "You have become something I do not recognize. Are you still one of us?" "I am more than I was," Kale replied. "And so can all of our people be, if they choose to embrace change rather than cling to old hungers." The proof of their success came when Kale demonstrated the new energy conversion process on his own ship. The power output was sufficient to sustain the entire crew while drawing energy only from the ship's reactor, not from external sources. The technology worked. Over the following weeks, Dr. Tae-wan and Dr. Minho worked with reformed void hunters to implement the new systems across their fleet. The process was slow and sometimes dangerous, but it was successful. One by one, Kale's people began to experience the freedom that came with no longer being driven by constant hunger. Some void hunters, like Vex, eventually chose to undergo their own transformations, allowing human scientists to help them rediscover the emotions they had lost. Others preferred to remain as they were, but adopted the new energy systems that freed them from the need to consume living worlds. Admiral Yeon faced charges for her initial attack orders. But public opinion shifted dramatically when the true story of the Void Hunters became known. Captain June Park became a strong advocate for the peace process, inspired by the courage that Hana had shown. But the reality of Hana and Kale's new existence proved more complex than either had expected. They had indeed transformed each other through love, but they now faced a galaxy that viewed their union with a mixture of wonder and fear. Some saw them as proof that peace between species was possible, while others viewed them as an unnatural violation of the cosmic order they established. A new colony on a planet at the edge of human space, where humans and reformed Void Hunters could learn to coexist. The colony became a symbol of hope for many, but also a target for extremists from both species who refused to accept the new reality. "Do you regret what we've become?" Hana asked Kale one evening as they watched the sunset over their new world. Her form still appeared mostly human, but now glowed with the same inner light that marked all Void Hunters. "How can I regret the greatest gift in the universe?" Kale replied, his form having stabilized into something that was both beautiful and alien. "You taught me that love is stronger than hunger, that understanding is more powerful than fear." "But it's not easy," Hana said. "We're neither fully human nor fully Void Hunter. We exist between worlds, belonging completely to neither." "Perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs," Kale suggested. "Beings who can bridge the gap between species, who can translate fear into understanding." Their love story became legend throughout the galaxy, told in different ways by different species. Some versions emphasized the romance between beings who should have been enemies. Others focused on the scientific breakthrough that saved billions of lives. Still others treated it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of crossing species boundaries, but the truth was simpler and more complex than any of the legends. Hana and Kale had discovered that love was not just an emotion, but a transformative force that could reshape reality itself. Their union had created new possibilities for both species, but it had also created new challenges that would take generations to resolve. As they stood together watching the stars, they knew that their story was just beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless other species who lived in fear of each other. Perhaps their example could help others find their own paths from fear to understanding. "What happens now?" Hana asked. "Now we live," Kale replied. "We show the galaxy that love can transform even the most impossible situations. We prove that monsters can become heroes, and that the greatest power in the universe is not the ability to destroy, but the courage to care for another being." They had loved across the vast darkness of space, and found that love was indeed stronger than fear. But they had also learned that transformation was not an ending but a beginning, and that true love meant accepting the challenges that came with creating something entirely new. In the end, they had not just saved two species from mutual destruction. They had shown the galaxy that even its greatest fears could be transformed into its greatest hopes. One act of love at a time, the stars watched over them as they began their new life together. Two beings who had become something more than either could have imagined alone, living proof that the impossible was just another word for something that had not yet been achieved.